bad?
Well,
Yeah.
Tie again, it's another tie.
What do you guys put?
the answer was the fighter, but Boogie Nights was third, and 2 people.
What was 10?
10 didn't even rank.
Well, you guys didn't ask. What did,
All right.
So it's 2 wins again.
So tables 3 and 1.
We're going to have another tiebreaker later today, possibly. I don't know what's happening anymore, but there's still a 3-way tie. Our next guest keynote is Sonal Zawari. She is the president of True You, and it is her passion to inspire others to find their true selves. She works with groups and individuals on professional development, communication, and leadership, emotional intelligence, confidence building, behavior, and image. She coaches clients on showing up as their authentic self, stepping into their power, and tapping into their intuition, using it to shine from the inside out. Ladies and gentlemen, Sonal Zawari.
Is this on? You can hear me? All right, awesome. Thank you, Nathan. That was really, really sweet. If you don't mind, though, it's Sonia. No, I love doing that. I spent my whole life when people stare at my name on a school roster. I don't know how many of you have different names, and they stare at it and they stare at it, and you're like, move on. Let's get this done. So, thank you for having me. I am definitely someone who walks around a lot when I speak. So, you are so sweet. So I was afraid I was going to trip. So you did that perfectly. But forgive me back there if I don't see your faces because of the sun shining through and the nice, beautiful halo effect. I can't really see you. So if I'm staring back there, please don't take it personally. I'm not staring at you. I'm just kind of trying to look. Because today we're going to I hear today you have a lot of games you're playing this evening, right? I'm not sure what I overheard, but there's some contests or something you guys are trying to win, and who eats first, and who eats second, and who's not going to get to eat, or something along those lines, right? So we're going to have an opportunity today. I think, did everybody get 2 worksheets? I probably shouldn't call them worksheets. You can tell. Let me quickly give you an introduction. Sonal Zawari. I am I kind of grew up all over the country, so I'm a gypsy. And I am not from the United States, but I came here a very, 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 very long time ago. And I share that because I grew up in Brooklyn. So the part of my speed in speaking is something I'm really genuinely working on. So if I'm going too fast, just kind of go, or something like that. I'm working on that. I spent 10 years teaching high school science and 5 years teaching in college biology, so I am a science geek. That was my space in life once upon a time, and then I've had 4 regenerations of my career since. So great place to be in today, right? We're in 2018. Oh my gosh, I've said that for the first time. That's so exciting. 2018, and we know that we are in a society today where we're constantly coming and going from different spaces in our career, right? And we're being open to that, and that's what's key about what we're going to talk about today. How do we know where we need to go? How do we know who we are and what we bring to the table, right? How many of you ever ask yourself that question? How many of you know exactly what your gift is in life and you're doing it now? How many of you have no idea what I mean when I say your gift? How many of you are discovering your gift and you're kind of working on a plan? That's what's pretty cool, right? I come from culture, the Indian culture, everything. If you know Indians in your life, if you are IT or engineering, you definitely will, right? We all are trained to go engineering, doctor, lawyer, why anything else? That's what I was told my whole life. Why you only have masters, you need PhD. And I'm like, I don't want a PhD. I want to go out and do things. I want to change lives. And they look at me really concerned and confused. That's not where the money comes. And you're like, I get it, but that's my curse. I used to think it was a curse, and now I know it's a gift. Okay, so I share that with you because today, and the clicker is working, I understand you've had the privilege, so spark, ignite the fire within. Everybody has something different that ignites their fire within, right? learning about what your gift is. What are you gonna do with it? How are you going to get there? And today we're gonna get a chance. Anybody ever played poker before? Okay, we're gonna play personality poker today, okay? Now, I didn't invent it, okay? It's by Steven Shapiro. Anybody ever hear of personality poker? Oh, cool. All right, awesome. So everybody's gonna be exposed to something new today. I love that. So today we're gonna play personality poker to talk about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, the sheets that you have in front of you are not for everything that I'm sharing, so I apologize that I didn't, feel free to use the back for notes if you want. But we're gonna go through things, and I'm gonna kind of have an outline up here for you today. But most of it's gonna come in from you guys interacting, from you guys discovering, from you guys learning, and then we're gonna talk through it with real life examples. Does that sound cool? All right, so emotional intelligence. Who's taken any type of training in that? Who's been in the audience? What, we have one or two, okay. Who's ever heard of it? Okay, you might hear it as EI, EQ. You might even hear it as EQ. If any of you taken the EQI, it's an assessment tool, okay, no? So there's so many different things out there covering that now. And when we talk about emotional intelligence, what we're really talking about is, do we know how we show up? What are our feelings and how do we use them? How do we control them in any situation, right? So that's kind of the bottom line with that. But there are so many different facets to it, okay? So we're gonna start, just introduce, real kind of high introduction here. There's 4 components to emotional intelligence. We have self-awareness, just like it sounds. Who am I? What am I thinking? What am I feeling, right? How do I bring that to the table? Self-management. Now that I know what my emotions and feelings are, how do I control those? How do I access those? How do I use them in a team situation or even in a situation where I'm going to be leading a group or an organization? Social awareness or empathy, right? How empathic am I? We here will cover a little bit later the difference between sympathy versus empathy. Okay, because those are 2 different things. And then we talk about relationship management. Now that's huge and key because all of you in here have a relationship with one another to some extent. You have relationships in your lives, with your kids, with your family members, with your colleagues. You have relationships. So how do we use those skills that we discovered about ourselves to really kind of, as you guys say today, ignite the fire? Launch those, get them to work, okay? So, tell me what you think. Why do you think EI is important? Based on what I just said to you, anybody? What do you think is important about it? Why do I care? Why do you care? Maybe you don't care.
I think it's important to know what baggage you're bringing to a conversation.
Okay, he said, say that again. That was awesome.
You need to know what baggage you're bringing into a conversation.
To know what baggage you're bringing into a conversation. I love that because we use the word baggage and we think, what kind of precursors, what kind of pre-experiences, right, do I bring to the table, or insight? That's awesome, thank you. Why else do you think it's important?
So that you can have healthy relationships with your clients, with your coworkers, in your personal life.
Excellent, what's your name?
Kate.
Kate, sorry that I can't launch this out at you, but Kate said that so we can have healthy relationships. How many of you want healthy relationships? Okay, some people are like, do I really have to keep raising my hands and stop asking questions? I'm just trying to get you to move around because I heard you had a really awesome lunch. And so it takes, the science teacher and me will come out, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes for food coma to kick in, and all of that blood is just rushing down there right now, and you're like this. All right, so we're gonna get you motivated. All right, so we know why EI is important. Anything else? Any other contribution there before we get started?
Connection.
Connection. Oh, you said my favorite word in the whole world. Connection. What do you mean by connection? What does that mean to you?
To me, it's connection with the self, but then also connection with the other. So understanding that balance between the 2.
I don't even need to be here. You want to come up for the rest of this?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So connection is about understanding yourself and understanding the balance between what you know about who you are and what you bring to the table, right? And then connecting with what someone else is bringing to the table and possibly what they can contribute, right? How many of you have heard of collaboration? Ooh, that's like a big word, isn't it? That's a word we use all the time. If we collaborate, what happens? What happens when you collaborate? Awesome stuff. Exactly right. The fire gets ignited, right? Awesome stuff. So here are your quick learning objectives today. Today you're going to learn, you're going to be able to identify your level of EI. You're sitting here saying, I've heard of it. How do I know what I am? I mean, like, what's my emotional intelligence? You know, and so we're going to figure that out today. How to actively and deliberately use your EI. Okay, now you know what it is. How are you going to use it to improve your communication skills and how you connect with people? Okay? And finally, you're going to learn how to manage work relationships, because we all get to work. And we want to work with those people, right? I had someone tell me not too long ago, I don't work with people. I am in my cube behind my computer, and I'm coding. The only person I communicate with is my computer, and that's not even a person. And I sit there and I think about it, and I think, you know, but you are, right? So who are you creating? Okay, forgive me, techies, if I don't use the right words, okay? So don't throw stuff at me. But who are you creating the coding for? Who are you creating that project for, right? Oh, well, you know, I give it to my boss, I have no idea what happens from there. Well, how do you know what your boss wants from you? What's that relation? That's a relationship. And if you two speak two different languages, are you going to be in that cube getting done what you need to get done at the same rate or the same satisfaction that your boss wants you to get it done, right? And then that boss turns around and delivers it to whom? A client, a customer, and all of a sudden they're like, that's not what I asked for. And all of a sudden it goes back to where? The very beginning, okay? So that's what's awesome about this, is even sometimes when we forget that even though in our jobs or in the things that we're doing, we're in one space alone, that we are actually connecting and relating with people all the time, okay? So let's get started. So on the back of that front sheet, this is just gonna be something real quick to assess your EI. I'm gonna give you directions. There's no format there, it's just for me. It's not something that you have written out for you. You just use the back of your sheet to take some notes here. All you're gonna do is the following for me. I'm gonna ask you to rate these questions on a scale of 1 to 5. On your paper, just write 1 to 5 and tell me what numbers there are. I'm gonna read these statements out loud. 1 being the least and 5 being the most. Okay, it'll make sense here in a minute, I promise you. How do you handle criticism? 1 being horribly or 5 being awesome? Give yourself your number.
We don't rank them, we rate each one, right?
Yeah, you give yourself a number between 1 to 5 on each one of these, and I'm going to read them out loud one at a time. Okay, so the first one is, how do you handle criticism? How open-minded are you? Number 2. Number 3, how good of a listener are you? Number 4, how often do you sugarcoat the truth?
So would 5 be
Yeah, what's
most
the
often?
number on that one?
Yeah, how often do you sugarcoat the truth? All the time. 5.
Okay.
Or, no, I'm sorry. If you often sugarcoat the truth, I apologize. That's 1.
Okay.
So how often are you authentic would be then 5. I apologize. And then how likely are you to apologize when you are wrong?
Can you back up to 4?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Do you mind backing up to 4 to explain that again?
Sure. Okay, so for number 4, how often do you sugarcoat the truth? If you are sugarcoating the truth, that's not a good thing, so that would be a 1. I'm sorry. If you are not sugarcoating the truth and you are authentic and honest, then that's a 5. I apologize for that confusion. Does that help? Any other questions out there? Need me to repeat any of them? All right, add them up. What's your total?
If you apologize when you're right, is that -1.5?
How likely are you to apologize when you? Why would you apologize when you're right? No, I mean, I'm not saying you're not. So here's the thing. Does that make sense, or did I not answer your question? Or?
No, yeah.
So, out of your scores, you should have a maximum of 25. All right. So if your emotional intelligence level is low, 1 to 7, what are you missing? Before we leave today, this is actually going to be one of the things I'm going to challenge you to walk away and do. So make a note somewhere on where you fall in the spectrum. 1 to 7 is, what are you missing? What one area do you need help with the most? And after we go through the different 4 criteria of emotional intelligence today, that might add some insight or enlightenment for yourselves. Medium, 8 to 18. Good start. Where can you improve? Think about the areas later today as we go through these that you can improve. And on the high range, 19 to 24, is you are an EI rock star. How can you use your power for good? If that is where you sit in that spectrum, what do you do with that? Okay? Questions? All right. How many of you are happy with your scores? How many of you now, I would like for you to take a quick moment and circle that score and put next to it so you know for later, you're going to come back to that and you're going to populate it with the 4 criteria that we're going to give to you here in just a moment, okay? If that makes sense. But we're going to first play poker so that you can understand what it is that I'm talking about. Now, this is personality poker, so here's what I need from you. I have 10 decks of cards. It really is more powerful and effective if you have a minimum of 4 people in your group. If you have 6 at your group, please move around. I only have 10 decks, so I need a total of only 10 groups. But if you can have up to 4 to 5 people at a table. So if you can quickly do that, and if you need to only have 3 because there's not enough people, that's fine. But ideal would be no less than 3, obviously no more than 5. Does anybody need to change seats or anything? Now, from your group, if you would create or find or label or decide your group leader, please. And please send your group leader up to me to get a deck of cards.
Your table.
Your group leader needs to come to me to get a deck of cards.
Zach, I do is give ping cards.
All you have to do is get the cards.
Do not open the cards. Do not
Don't open them, Brittany.
Do not open the cards. I will guide you.
Like cards. Yeah, everything.
I heard that.
Underway.
I have a cardboard box.
Pointing out things.
Okay, now that you guys hear me. Now that you guys have your deck of cards, when you open them up, you might want to move some of your stuff around because we need the center of your table to kind of have some space open, and I'll explain to you why here in a minute. The team lead, if you would please, take out the deck of cards. Now, I've never done this part that I'm going to tell you next before. I want to try it today for the first time. There is a joker in there. I'd like to use that joker. I don't think I've done that before. I want to keep it in there just in case one of you decide to create your own adjective. That's decent. No bad language here. So what I want you to do, team lead, is pass out the 5, everyone gets 5 cards, and face down. And then all the rest of the cards, yeah, please shuffle it if you don't mind, because I don't know if my last group did that or not. So just to be safe, let's do that. And then after you pass out the 5 cards, put all the rest of the other cards face up, scattered around in the center. Does that make sense? So pass out 5 cards to every player. They have to be spread out in the center of your table, face up. Face up, yeah, face up. After everyone gets 5 cards, yep, face up and spread out. Yep, scatter around.
Like so they're
In 1 second, yeah. Yes, scatter them all around. They don't have to be clean. Make them, they could just be out so everyone can see them. The goal is that everyone at your table needs to be able to see the words on the cards. All right. Does every team have that part of it set up so I can give you the next set of directions so you can play? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now this is where you can use the sheet that I gave you. So if you would have that in front of you, it's the extra copies of that. Just to read, thank you. I'll give it right back to you. Okay, so as you see this, now the magic is the glasses.
Oh, was that the wrong sheet?
No, I have to read it. Yes, the right one. Thank you. So we think about, you guys have heard, if we think about what our strengths are and what the perception of us is, can those be different? How many times do you have someone saying, nah, I'm really cool, I'm nice, I really am. And everyone else is like, right? Or, I mean, I know it's scary, but I'm the best leader you will ever have. And your people are going, no, oh God, no, you're not. Right? So how we think we show up and how other people experience us and how they show up is the key. And that's what this game is going to allow you to do. A lot of you may have done things like DISC, Myers-Briggs, Stephen Covey. There's so many things out there. They're awesome tools, okay? I've done them all. I love them all. This is something similar in the sense that you're going to walk away with an idea of where you stand, but it's going to give you something more powerful. So what I want you to do, and you can see it in the directions right in front of you, you are going to each have the 5 cards in your hand, from left to right. Each person, I want to make sure that you rank your cards, the ones that are least like you to the most like you. Now, here's the key on that, because that's kind of confusing. Every card in your hand has to be like you, but from those 5, put it least to most. If you need to swap out with the ones in the center, go ahead and do that until you are comfortable with the hand that you have. But only have 5 in your hand at all times. Yes, sir?
Where does the Joker play into this?
So I've never played with the Joker, and today I decided that if you want to put in the center, you can. We might even substitute it for a vocabulary word that may not be there and someone wants to use. But if that's too complicated right now, we'll do that for the second half.
So do I just randomly draw another one?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's not random. It's not random, guys. Hold on. Let me answer this question because that was an excellent question. It's not random. In the center are all these adjectives, right? So, for example, we have bossy or disorganized or popular. I'm just reading the center. I wasn't reading anyone's hand, I promise you. And what you want to do is you look at the 5 cards in your hand and you go, whoa, wait, this one in my hand is not me. You take it out and you switch it for something else from the center pile. You do that until you're comfortable with the 5 in your hand. Does that make sense?
And then how do we rank them again?
From the 5 that you are convinced that are you, from least to most. Okay? And when you're done with that, team leaders tell me that your entire team is done with that so I can guide you to the next step.
None. I got a really good hand. Pretty accurate.
What is this? It's a really good smelling punk.
You have some definite organizational people here, right? Lining them all up. When you feel like you are done and you're happy and satisfied, either I want you to document which ones you have on the paper I gave you. 2 things are going to be important, the word and the suit. And you will know why in a minute. We'll give you translations. So if it's heart or spade or diamond or club, in addition to the vocabulary word you chose. Even if you want, take a picture of it. Whatever works best for you. Here you go. What I want you to do while you're doing that, this is the second part, is I want you, after everyone in your team is done with their hand, do I have any group that's done it? It's okay if you're not. Then I'm going to have you discuss with each other. You each need to take a turn to share what your hand is and why you chose that. Share it with your team, please.
Start us off there, team.
Yeah, I got this. I have loyal, direct, boisterous, systematic, and compassionate.
You were all positive.
I know.
Bash myself.
I mean, boisterous to me is that I'm just loud.
Now, did you do it in order of least to most?
That was most, please. So I'm most loyal and / direct and so on.
I am from least to most. I am driven, realistic, logical, open-minded.
After you document them on your paper, make sure you guys are discussing. The power is in the discussion here. With each other, share, each person takes a turn and shares what they chose and why they chose it.
So I've kind of with the work with my head beginning route, it's been one joint. So from most to least, you said at least to most. At least to most. So I had organized and not organized, so that's my least one. The discipline, impulsive, spontaneous. These two are interesting. Yeah, I guess I could say. Well, a couple with that as well.
But yeah, these two are very similar.
This is kind of in a negative sense too.
Spontaneous is like, doesn't require much analytic before you act.
I think it's dependent on the environment that I'm in, right?
Least to most, I said diplomatic,
Short answer.
diplomatic, adventurous, philosophical, versatile, and rational.
So now we can discuss them. We've already begun discussing.
I'm an open book here.
Share with the whole team, each person, please, so everyone can be in the conversation.
So did you guys all like swap things out? Like, oh yeah, that is me? Or
Yeah, we were
I
looking for the
switched
thing.
2.
okay.
Yeah, I switched 3. Not counting the Joker, which is just making it work.
Okay, so my most was loyal and my least was compassionate. Because I'm like loyal but also a realist, so like I don't give people like pity as far as compassion goes. But like I feel like if it's true, like a true tough time or like whatever, then it's the things.
I definitely pick up loyal. Don't really get direct, but I think it's higher. At least like my understanding of my interaction. Like the first time I meet you, I'm like, wow, she's really direct.
Some of which plans?
But I can see that. I think loyal compassion is honestly systematic.
My job.
Career choices. Usually similar to the direct thing, I think.
I'm aware of my environment.
Yeah. More love.
Yeah, but like my friends will always joke when my old co-workers, we met around Christmas time, and like the joke was that we needed a private room because I was moving there and I'm the last one before they go. So, but yes, I'm aware of my environment before that comes out.
Lots of hearts, right? So, what are hearts? Engage the hearts and minds for people in
Make
relationships.
sure every person gets a chance to share. Is there any group that is completely done?
4 of us.
All right, awesome. Keep working.
Oh man, I should get rid of that heart.
I
I don't like either of those.
Low relationships.
Don't like either of those.
I mean, you just met me, right? Which will be interesting too, because 2 people have known me for a long period of time. Do you agree or disagree with my self-assessment?
This is your most.
Least to least.
So for the purposes of this exercise, I have to ask, like, you got
I mean, it's
your least thing, but like, so you're saying I am driven, but of these 5 things,
I think that this summarizes your career, right? Like you have to be realistic and like analytical about stuff, but the creative side of it can be top tier. I'm kind of surprised you don't have something that's more like goofy.
I wasn't gonna go for popping, but I just felt
Well, like sociable maybe, or like you put witty as one of your things on your worksheet.
Brittany stole the boisterous
That's
part,
true.
so
Boisterous would fit.
I also, to some degree, just
I could see it.
creative. I didn't see that one in there.
Yeah.
More of a cheerleader.
Yeah, so I would see something that was like a little bit more
I saw
goofy or
visionary,
social
but I felt like insightful was a little bit more accurate.
And that works like realistic, like insightful and realistic tie in better than visionary and realistic. Visionary is more like climb into class. Tell us about yourself, Zach.
Alright, so rational. Do what makes sense. Do what's logical, what's rational. Versatile, I feel like I can do a lot of different things. Philosophical, I think about the bigger picture a lot. Life. Adventurous. I like to go on adventures. It's pretty self-explanatory.
But if you're doing it for my behalf, no, I want to know.
And diplomatic. I like to toe the line, I guess. Toe the line. Yeah, I
So
don't really.
is it a version of conflict?
Yeah, I don't like conflict.
Can we switch out cars based on our discussion?
Not yet. There's a second half.
Oh, second half.
Dun, 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 dun.
I think yours follow a theme of like level-headed though. Like
Yeah.
you like adventure and you want to toe the line, and like there's like a little bit of that, but at the same time your other side of that is like rule following,
Right.
like bigger picture, what are consequences?
Sure.
And I think I'm an adventurer.
Or like one of
All
those
those
things.
These things are interpersonal. This is external. Right? So like you may not be adventurous, well maybe not versatile, but I'm thinking like rational and diplomatic in particular. Like how you show up to interact with people. You may not come off as adventurous because you're being rational and towing the line and being diplomatic. So that's more interpersonal. Then externally, you're like, I want to go play this sport. I drive this car way too much. I don't know how that shows up.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
I'd love to have a check-in if you don't mind. How many groups are almost done? How many groups need a few more minutes? Done with the first part. Is there any group that needs more time for the first part? That's okay if you do. Okay, I want to give you the second part so you can kind of get going on that. So what I'd like you to all take a look up here for just 1 second. It's really amazing how many of you really had a hard time kind of narrowing it down to 5. You're like, well, wait, I can kind of be that. Well, maybe kind of that, right? Me, yeah. It was like, and do you think that would change depending on, well, I was gonna say what day of the week, but what time of the year or what stage in your life, or, you know, there's so many variables that are involved. So that's the power behind this, right? You know, you don't get to walk out of here and say, this is my brand, boom. You know, this is who you are today. And the beauty about it and emotional intelligence is it gets to shift. Now, today's session was called EI versus IQ. I want to change that and say EI and IQ. Because IQ is imperative. It's important. We know that. It's been a part of our society forever. It's the cognitive part of our brain. But the EQ, the EI, the relationship building, that is actually scientifically, believe it or not, I know I have a lot of people who say, oh, it's that fluffy stuff. It's not just the fluffy stuff. It is the part of our brain, the frontal lobe, that actually allows us to connect with people and make decisions. So, you just had the opportunity to describe who you are and how you think you show up. Now is when the beautiful part of it comes in. If you turn your page around, you'll see how many of you heard, you know, you will never get a second chance to make a first impression, right? We hear that all the time. Let's see what kind of impression you left. Now, real quick, I believe my understanding, I apologize for that, is that we have 3 different organizations, 3 different buildings. Is that correct?
2 buildings.
2 buildings? Okay. So how many of you, so a lot of you get to work together a lot in the same space. Some of you don't, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So this is brilliant then, because raise your hand if you're at a table with people that you don't get to work with on a day-to-day basis. Oh God, this is perfect. It can't be any more perfect. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. Okay. So, like, you planned it. Like, thank you. So what we're going to do now, and the directions are right there. Now, each person, so what I want you to do is pull all your cards together in the center. All of them, even the ones in your hand. Spread them out so everyone can see them, please. So, anytime we have fun, we have to have just a little bit, just a hint of emotional painful, just a little. So what you want to do next is each person in the group will take, now, when I say this, I want each person to have the attention on them. I know, I told you with fun comes pain. But what that person's gonna, what we're gonna do is we're gonna each get a chance to hand to that person, whoever's turn it is, a card from the center on how we experience that person. Now remember, be authentic. Be okay with this, because the conversation, the crucial conversation that happened here is where the power comes from. Where we get things to happen. Where the spark gets ignited. Every person will end up with 5 cards in their hand, or, I'm sorry, I apologize, however many people are in their team, in their hand. As you hand that person that card, you have to tell them why. Explain to them, this is why and how I experience you. Please document that, because then we're gonna have a conversation around that at the end. So this is gonna be really cool and powerful. Any questions? Yes?
So some of us had, like she and I had some that were pretty similar between the two of us, and only one of us could have the card.
Okay.
Would we be able to, like, one at a time, hand one person, but one person?
Sure, if that's a great question. If someone, if you say you have 2 people in your group that both feel like they're analytical, and you only have one analytical card, you can either A, use a joker card to replace that. Hey, yeah, let's put that in there. On the fly, let's go. All right, so we can do that, or we can put it back in and just document that that's the card you were given. The key here, though, is you see A, B, C, D, E. I want each person's page to be filled out with what you were told on how you showed up and why, so that we can have that conversation. Excellent question. Anything else? All right, awesome, go.
Everyone's looking at me. Are you giving me cards?
Out of everything that you did, I felt like how I interpret you or perceive you, just in life in general. So you seem like a very loyal person. I saw empathetic over here. It was like that. I think those two can align, but I think this, I haven't seen this. I perceive that you have it, but I haven't seen it show up in a way that I can confidently dig into it. But I think that this comes from this.
If I would have known empathetic was a part of it, or a
No, it's in here.
What are you looking for?
Reading this Joker.
Yeah, we'll just Joker it. Organized. Oh, there you go.
The group's personality.
I'm going off your own notes about yourself, how you write yourself, being passionate. Not giving away free classes. And so, criticals of artwork where the main care to do better. That's what stood out to me.